You're not woke, you're broke. I'm your host, certified financial therapist, Jaelyn Vickery, guiding you towards becoming someone who finally trusts themselves with money. If you're ready to transform your financial identity through real money talk, money news, and money stories, turn up the volume and tune in. This is Finance, Fitness, and Finesse. Hey, Finessers, it's your host, JaeVic. Welcome back to another episode of Finance, Fitness, and Finesse. I hope you're tuning into this episode with good energy today. It's Friday today in the studio when we're recording. We made it to the end of another week, but no matter when you're tuning into this episode, be sure to check in on your energy, check in on the energy of those around you. It's really important to stay in tune with that because just asking how are you is not going to cut it. Today's money term of the day is ROI. That stands for return on investment. Now, depending on where you're at in your life, you may have heard of ROI or maybe you haven't. But the reason why I wanted to bring this money term to the forefront is because I am getting a lot of inquiries lately between listeners of the show and clients at Dimensional Wealth wondering, how do I curb my impulsive spending? Well, we're going to get into that in the show today. We're going to talk about habits. We're going to talk about real life money stories where impulsive spending interacts with us all the time in our daily living. Now, in regards to return on investment, okay, what does that money term really mean? Well, to put it in plain terms, when we put money into something, we typically expect it to serve us in some way. A lot of the listeners of this show are in their wealth building era. So for example, for those that are in your 20s going into school, right, I just saw on LinkedIn a really cool post by the University of Illinois where they had recent U of I graduates signing this mirror, and the caption was graduates signing out of 2026, right? And it was really cool, right? They were in their cap and gown, they were signing their name, and it looked really nostalgic, right? Well, while I was looking at this post, not only was it really creative, but I was thinking, when was the first time these graduates signed their name on the dotted line? Well, think about it, student loans, right? And now that they're graduated, now that they've had their ceremony, right, they've had the celebrations, they get to see where their return on investment actually pans out, right? I don't know about you guys, maybe it's because of the field I work in as a financial therapist, but I am seeing more often than not, people don't feel that the return on investment, the tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars that they put into their education is not actually serving as a return on investment in real life. Finessers, if you aren't careful, you're going to find yourself taking out a loan to pay for school, to then get a job, to pay for the school again. Like, you're paying for it twice and then some with the interest. So then that's where you really got to ask yourself, where is my return on investment? Now, that's something a lot bigger, right? That's loans, which we'll get into that in another episode. But when it comes to impulsive spending, right, those daily interactions that we have with money, it's so important to understand whether or not we're actually getting a return on investment based on what we're purchasing. This could come down to clothing, food, certain items in retail. I mean, Finessers, we see between 4,000 and 10,000 advertisements per day. 4,000 and 10,000 advertisements per day. And if you don't believe me, just start counting, okay? Think about how many times you're seeing billboards and things that are displayed constantly in front of our eyes when we're driving, right? You may be walking, oh, look, there's a walking advertisement right there. I didn't ask to advertise that company, but it's on my shirt. I'm a walking billboard in myself, and so are a lot of the people that you're interacting with in your day-to-day. Think about our phones, right? These days on social media, it's not about actually interacting socially with the people that we love or the people that we care about. You're going to see probably more ads than you're going to see people. YouTube these days, right? If you press pause, they're going to start showing you advertisements. If your screen is off, they start showing you advertisements, right? Impulsive spending preys on our emotions. Every behavior, every money behavior is based in a need. And every time you need to understand that those needs are based on how we feel. When we're looking to invest in something, whether it's a t-shirt or an experience, we're not necessarily always looking to invest in that product itself. We're investing in how that product is going to make us feel. Money is emotions disguised as numbers. I've said it several times on the podcast, and I'm going to continue to say it, finessers, because in regards to exploring the return on investment when it comes to different goods or products, experiences that we may want to interact with in our life, we need to understand the feeling that we're chasing. Human beings, we love to belong, right? We want to belong. We survive in community. If you think about human evolution, tribes, right? If you get kicked out the tribe, you're probably not going to survive. So we survive in numbers. We survive when we belong, right? When it comes to the things that we purchase, typically we are looking for some sort of feeling of validation, okay? That feeling of validation. I'm going to go with a client story, and we'll explore this a little bit more. There's a few client stories that I'd like to share in regards to this. But I had a young woman, in her 30s. She actually was a stay-at-home mom, but because of certain things that are happening right now in the economic climate, her husband has told her, hey, you may need to go back to work, right? They have 2 young kids. Childcare expenses are flooding them, along with different household expenses, and gasoline right now is not the friendliest or the most fun thing to look at right now. And I was already working with this client, and right now she is really challenged by a change in her financial identity, right? She was a stay-at-home mom. She did have a healthy interaction with the finances with her husband. Like, she would sit down and, interact with, what is our budget for certain things. Her husband started bringing her into this because they thought that she might have a little bit of an impulsive spending problem, and we'll get into that because there is some impulsive spending that all of us experience as human beings. But what this client was really seeking to understand, going into a transition, stepping back into the workforce, she's going to start getting her own money for the first time since they went to college, right? And she worked for a little bit, but then got married and was a stay-at-home for several years. So there's a shift in her financial identity, and she has already started working where it's starting to bring up some of her old tendencies around impulsive spending because she's looking to belong. And now she's going into a new environment, a new role. And after the commercial break, we're going to break down what her challenges were and how we got her to start thriving. Finessers, the only way to learn about money is to talk about money. Money feels out of control for the majority of people right now. But if you're here listening to the F3 show, you're not trying to be the majority. You're trying to do something different. Dimensional Wealth provides financial therapy and money coaching. Our services are designed to help you get your money organized by understanding the emotional and behavioral patterns affecting your bank account. Stop procrastinating when it comes to your money. Overcome impulsive spending, money anxiety, and heal from money trauma. Take the first step to take care of yourself. Visit JaeVic.com to book your consultation, and listeners get an exclusive discount on services using code DWF3. That's DWF3 at JaeVic.com. Let's build wealth with wellness. Now back to the show. Welcome back to the show, Finessers. Before we went to commercial break, we were talking about impulsive spending, right, and return on investment. And I brought up, a past client story just to bring us into, the reality of how we interact with impulsive spending on the daily. So I've worked with, this young woman from the past. She's in her 30s, right, a young mom. She invested in her education, right? So she had a return of investment going to college, right? She ended up not using it for a period of time after having a family, right? The husband was able to support their lifestyle costs. Now, with certain factors in the economic climate, she has to go back to work, okay? Some context, in regards to this client, and something that I want to be sure that we understand is the fact that impulsive spending is based in what we want to feel, right, at the end of any purchase. That's the same with return on investment. And it's something that's important for us to think about when we're investing in anything. What is the return on investment in regards to what I am seeking to feel with the acquisition of this purchase? And what longevity does it have? Is it temporary or is it long-term? With this client example, right, she started financial therapy because of certain frustrations around return on investment when she went to school, but then feeling some imposter syndrome around, well, I haven't been in the workforce, now I got to go back to the workforce, and the job market may not be as friendly if you don't have 5-10 years of job experience. Not to mention some of the familial factors that come into play when we are trying to make certain decisions with our money. This client, right, she's married, happily married, but there have been some issues in the marriage around discretion of what is purchased in the home, right? And this is an issue that happens for a lot of people, right? If one spouse is the primary income earner for the home and the other spouse is the primary manager of the home and the operations of the home, the way that things are purchased and the way that money interacts within that ecosystem of the household is unique to every family. But again, the only way to learn about money is to talk about money. And if you are not talking to your loved ones about the way that you want money to flow throughout the ecosystem of the home, there's going to create more friction, especially when there are life transitions, such as one spouse having to go back into the workforce. And what does that look like for our money? Now, something that I've seen clients struggle with, including, the client example that we're talking about right now, is determining where am I at in regards to trusting what I spend compared to large expenses and then the things that happen on the daily, right? With this client, this young mom, right, one of her concerns is, well, if I'm out working, who's going to continue to take care of childcare? Who is going to make sure that there is dinner ready for the whole family at the end of the day? Are there going to be more impulsive decisions that are made around when we eat out versus when we cook, and who is cooking, who's going grocery shopping, right? And that's something where we need to acknowledge that time is also an asset, and we need to set an expectation for our time and our money, because clarity is key when it comes to navigating impulsive spending. Not to mention, going back to our 4 to 10K ads that we see each day. I mean, I remember when I first learned that statistic, I was blown away. And I didn't believe it until I started working in eating disorder care. And I was working with people that were struggling with impulsivity around food and money. Two things we interact with daily, can't live without, and often struggle with the most. You know why? Because we always need food. We always need money, and we also need time. Well, taking some insights from the clients that I've seen where, they're like, Jay, I just don't know why I can't figure out how to not eat out so much. Well, let's talk about the patterns, right? And, if there's anything that I know I want to continue to build into my practice, and I encourage the lifelong learners of this show, finessers, for you guys to continue to utilize, is learning through reading, okay? The Power of Habit, this is a book that I highly recommend, and any book recommendations you can find at JaeVic.com. There's links to amazing resources for you to have better understanding and self-awareness, which is your superpower when it comes to impulsive spending, so you can understand, what am I chasing here? What is the high or the satisfaction or the fulfillment I'm chasing with whatever feeling I'm seeking, right? I love convenience, just like anybody else. I love food, I love money, just like anybody else, and I also love my time, so I get it. At the end of a long day, no, I don't want to cook a full-on meal, because it's not just the cooking, it's the prep, it's the cleanup, and then, willpower is the only muscle that gets weaker the more that you use it. Willpower is the only muscle that gets weaker the more that you use it. So by the end of your long day, right, where you get up, you're taking care of the things that you need to and that you hopefully want to, not only taking care of yourself, but other people, be it with your family, be it in your job, right? And keep in mind, all throughout the day from the moment that you wake up, where most of us, right, we get up, the first thing we look at is our phones. You're being advertised to from the second that you wake up, right? With this client that was struggling with impulsivity around food and spending late at night, which honestly is like several people that I know personally and professionally, we talked about, okay, what are your cues, right? And what's really interesting about this book as well with The Power of Habit is our habits, they can be activated and they can also become dormant, okay? Our habits typically operate around a cue, a behavior, and a reward, okay? Think of advertising and impulsivity, right? Think about how many cues we get throughout our day, right? With this, one of the clients that I worked with around balancing their relationship with food and money, I was like, this is not necessarily solely a character problem, the fact that you're struggling with saying no to purchasing food, which is a necessity, right? What we looked at and sought to understand together is how many times she is being cued throughout the day to buy, to consume, right? Going home, typically where the impulsive spending would happen for this client is, she's driving home, down the street, and on that 15-minute drive, we did an experiment, and I was like, okay, safely, obviously, because you're driving, I want you to count how many restaurants you see. But not only restaurants, right? Those giant, the Golden Arches M that is high up in the sky, right? Among other brands that have those billboards that you can see. I said, okay, on your 15-minute drive home, I want you to count how many advertisements you see and how many times you feel that pull to go in through the drive-through, okay? When this client reported back in the following session, she told me, I saw 42 billboards in my 15-minute drive home. Okay. Then we went into the feeling. What are you feeling in regards to that initial pull to pull into that restaurant? She was like, well, I get really aware of my stomach. I might feel a little something in my chest, and it's almost like it's like a tether that is like trying to like turn the steering wheel for her, right, into these restaurants. And I was like, okay. Well, now that we have that awareness, right, we need to understand that that is also a cue. Not only the advertising itself, but paying attention to the physiological symptoms of what is pulling you there, right? And then we went into, okay, what kind of expectation can we set for your money so that we can relieve you of this pull that impulsivity can keep you trapped in? After the commercial break, we'll get into some resolutions that clients have used to curb impulsive spending. Finessers, how is society supposed to survive if the wealth gap keeps growing because financial support is built for people who already have money? A lot of financial services are charging $200, $300 an hour just to have a conversation. And for most people, that's just not realistic. I mean, 4 out of 10 Americans can't even afford a $400 emergency expense. Dimensional Wealth offers financial therapy and money coaching through a pay-per-minute model starting at just $1.50 per minute. You pay for the time you need, time and money, 2 of your most important assets back in your control. In just 8 sessions, our clients see lasting change, becoming more organized, more confident, and navigating their money decisions with more ease. So if you've been putting off getting financial support because of time or cost, now you have no excuse. Visit JaeVic.com to book your consultation And listeners of the show get an exclusive discount on services using code DWF3. That's DWF3 at JaeVic.com. You're not woke, you're broke. Now back to the show. Welcome back to the show, Finessers. I'm your host, JaeVic, and you're not woke, you're broke if you don't lock into this conversation around return on investment and impulsive spending. Now, a core topic point in regards to navigating what is my return on investment, how does that interact with my impulsive spending, is understanding the feeling that you may be chasing when you do seek to make a purchase. We left off talking about a client who was struggling with impulsive spending late at night, right? Because she's a hardworking woman, right? And deserves to spend her money, but also think about how much time you are trading to then buy convenience, right? And convenience is an important thing to have in the human experience, but if you don't have a strong understanding of your expectations around time, money, your feelings, right? When it comes to the things that you invest in, you're going to continue to find yourself in the rat race of, oh, well, if I'm not saving enough, or if I don't have enough to spend, or if I'm drowning in debt, I just need to work more. Well, what are you doing? Just spending more time and more energy that then is feeding the cycle where you have a cue of I'm exhausted because I'm working so much and I'm doing so much, to then the behavior of consuming for the reward of the temporary convenience or satisfaction and fulfillment that, again, is only fleeting if we aren't able to actually address the underlying need and finding different ways to fill that void. Now, a couple of different ways that I have supported clients in financial therapy with curbing some of their impulsive spending is obviously, number one, finding what underlying need that the spending is seeking to serve. The second thing is waiting 24 hours before buying anything that isn't a necessity. I've seen a lot of people try that, right? And it works for some, it doesn't work for other people. However, it is something to try and to see if that option does work for you. Then what that tells you is that, okay, in that moment where you were scrolling on your phone and maybe you were feeling bored, right? What feeling was the scrolling, the consuming, or the investment you're trying to make? What was it trying to resolve for you? It could be boredom, it could be stress, it could be anxiety, any of those three, right? And so what I want to do, I want to distract myself with something that is quick stimulation and then quick fulfillment, again, only to leave that void open and the cycle continues. So waiting 24 hours before buying something can, help curb that impulsivity that you may be feeling in the moment that is driven by any feeling or emotion. The second is to set a weekly fund money limit. One system that I've utilized in the past and that I've also helped other clients establish is having a bank account, finding a bank account that does not penalize you with minimum balance fees, which too many do because banks make most of their money based on loans, interest, and fees, but I won't get on that soapbox today. But setting a weekly fund money limit, or rather an expectation, if limit doesn't sit right with you, even the word budget, just say it's your money expectations, because sometimes budget can be a B word that people don't like. Setting an expectation for your fund money so that, say for this client who was, going out every week knowing that, she was going to go out and purchase things in the evening after work. And you know what? It's fun sometimes to also eat out and have that convenience. So again, that's not the problem here. The problem is the lack of expectation and self-awareness around what you are feeling that drives the impulsivity. And having a fund money account, right, where there is, say, a checking account where you have a debit card and you can spend all the money on that debit card until it reaches zero and you're not penalized. And if you have this account set aside for purely eating out, then when you get your income, you can set aside that $100, $50, or more, whatever amount it may be for you to meet your needs financially month to month. You can have that card so that you can spend without that guilt because you know that's what that money is allocated for. Finessers, You're not woke, you're broke. You're not getting the return on investment that you seek because you don't have strong and clear expectations for your money. The third piece, remove saved cards from shopping apps. Remove saved cards. Again, convenience is a killer if you don't have that baseline self-awareness that money is emotions disguised as numbers. People don't want to pay attention to their emotions and they don't want to pay attention to their money. And then you wonder why you're drowning in debt and you're suffering with your time and you're not happy and you're not fulfilled long term. Convenience is a killer unless if you have that superpower of self-awareness. So removing those save cards, okay, from Amazon, from other stores, not only is that going to also protect you from fraud, because I saw that way too much while I was working in banking, but it's also going to build up that tolerance. Remember, finessers, money management is a form of pain management because it is painful to say no. I deserve everything that I could ever want. So do you. But hey, we're never going to get to that point where we have that abundance of wealth where money doesn't have to be a concern if you don't pay attention to the return on investment that you're seeking and how impulsive spending is stopping you from achieving that. Removing save cards, you would be surprised what it builds in you in regards to that emotional tolerance to what you want to spend. Convenience is something that you deserve. Okay, and it's just like building any other muscle. I was a student athlete in the past. I love to work out. Working with your money is a sore today, strong tomorrow mentality. As we close out this episode today, finessers, if there was anything that I hope that you take from this is understanding that you have the ability to always build new habits. But it has to happen by finding comfort in the discomfort of getting to know yourself and what kind of return on investment that you're looking for. Thank you for tuning into today's episode. I'm your host, JaeVic. Please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. We'd love to hear your money story. Visit JaeVic.com. I'll see you guys next time. And if you don't know, now you know. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Finance, Fitness, and Finesse. If this episode shifted how you think or feel about money, pass it along to someone you care about. Got a real-life money story, question, or discovery? Send it our way at financefitnessfinesse@gmail.com or connect with us on social media. And remember, you're not woke, you're broke.